Have you ever wondered why some people always seem to make the right decisions at the right time? Why they stay calm under pressure, solve problems with ease, and communicate in a way that instantly grabs attention? It's not luck. It's not even just intelligence. It's the art of thinking smart. In today's noisy, fast-moving world, most people don't truly think. They react. They run on autopilot, repeating old habits, stuck in cycles of confusion and self-doubt. But those who rise above, those who stand out, have mastered a different skill: the psychology of clear and powerful thinking. And that's exactly what this journey is about. This audiobook isn't about filling your head with theories you'll never use. It's about giving you the mental tools, practical insights, and psychological strategies to take control of your thoughts, sharpen your clarity, and step into every situation with confidence. We're going to explore how to cut through the clutter of distraction, how to break free from the mental traps that hold people back, and how to use the power of perspective, emotional intelligence, and creativity to think at a higher level. Think of this as a workout for your mind. Each chapter will train you to recognize your thought patterns, upgrade your decisions, and strengthen the way you see the world. By the end, you won't just think faster. You'll think deeper, clearer, and smarter. This is not about being perfect. It's about being prepared. It's about learning how to approach challenges with calmness, how to speak with clarity, and how to influence with integrity. So if you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or unsure about your choices, this book is your map out of the fog. It's your invitation to step into a new way of living, where your mind works for you instead of against you. Get ready, because once you unlock the art of thinking smart, everything changes: your success, your relationships, your confidence, and your future. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Mindset Shift: From Automatic to Intentional Thinking. Let me ask you a question. When you wake up in the morning, do you feel like you're choosing your day, or do you feel like your day is already choosing you? For most people, life runs on autopilot. The alarm rings, they grab their phone, scroll through messages, check social media, and already, before they've even had breakfast, their mind is reacting, not creating. And the truth is, most of our thinking isn't thinking at all. It's habit. It's repetition. It's a cycle we don't even notice we're stuck in. This is where smart thinking begins, realizing that if we don't take control of our thoughts will take control of us. Automatic versus intentional thinking. Psychologists estimate that we make over 30,000 decisions every single day. Most of them are tiny: what to eat, what to wear, which email to answer first. But beneath those choices lies a deeper question. Am I making these decisions consciously, or am I just reacting automatically? Automatic thinking feels comfortable because it's easy. The brain loves shortcuts. That's why we drive the same route to work without thinking, or reach for our phone every time we're bored. These habits don't require effort, but they also don't create growth. Intentional thinking, on the other hand, requires awareness. It means pausing before reacting. It means asking, what outcome do I want here? What matters most right now? It's slower at first, but infinitely more powerful. Think of it like this: automatic thinking is like floating downstream, carried by the current. Intentional thinking is grabbing the paddle and steering the boat. Why the mindset shift matters. Now, you might ask, why does this matter so much? Isn't automatic thinking necessary to survive? Of course it is. We need habits and instincts to get through daily life. But here's the key. When important decisions show up about your career, your relationships, your health, you cannot afford to be on autopilot. Imagine a pilot flying a plane. Most of the flight can run on autopilot. But during takeoff, landing, or turbulence, the pilot must take manual control. Your life works the same way. If you stay on autopilot during life's turbulence, you'll crash. But if you learn to switch into intentional control, you rise above the storm. The psychology behind it. Neuroscience tells us that the brain has two main systems of thinking. System 1 is fast, automatic, and emotional. It's useful for quick judgments, like slamming the brakes when a car cuts you off. System 2 is slower, deliberate, and logical. It's what we use when solving a problem, planning for the future, or reflecting on a mistake. The problem is, most people let System 1 run their whole lives. They react emotionally, make snap judgments, and fall into old patterns. Smart thinkers, however, know when to slow down, activate System 2, and think with intention. This is the difference between someone who says, "I just reacted, I couldn't help it," and someone who says, "I paused, I thought it through, and I chose my response." Real-life example. Let me give you a simple but powerful example. Imagine two people stuck in traffic on their way to work. Both are late. Person A honks, yells, and spends the drive filled with anger. By the time they arrive, their mood is ruined, and they carry that negativity into every interaction. Person B pauses, takes a deep breath, and says, "I can't control the traffic, but I can control my response." They turn on an audiobook, learn something new, and arrive calm and prepared. Same situation. Different mindset. One person reacted automatically. The other thought intentionally. And that difference sets the tone for the entire day. Practical ways to shift your thinking. Now, how do you make this shift? How do you move from automatic to intentional thinking in your own life? Here are a few simple but powerful strategies. Pause before you react. The moment you feel triggered, whether it's anger, fear, or stress, stop. Count to 3. Take a breath. That small pause interrupts the automatic cycle and gives your brain space to choose a response. Ask better questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try, "What's the smartest way I can respond to this?" The questions you ask yourself direct the quality of your thinking. Set daily intentions. Each morning, ask yourself, "What do I want to focus on today?" Instead of letting the day control you, you take charge from the start. Journal your thoughts. Writing helps you step outside of automatic reactions. When you put your thoughts on paper, you see patterns you didn't notice before. Practice mindful awareness. Even 2 minutes of mindfulness a day, sitting quietly, focusing on your breath, trains your brain to recognize when you're drifting into autopilot. The payoff of smart thinking. Here's the truth. Shifting from automatic to intentional thinking won't happen overnight. It's like going to the gym. The first time you lift weights, it feels heavy. But over time, your muscles grow. In the same way, every time you pause, reflect, and choose, you're strengthening your mental muscles. And the payoff is huge. When you master this skill, you make clearer decisions under pressure. Stop overreacting to small problems. Feel more in control of your life. Build stronger relationships because you respond thoughtfully, not emotionally. In short, you stop living life as a passenger and start living as the driver. A challenge for you. So, here's my challenge to you as we close this first chapter. For the next 24 hours, practice intentional thinking. Whenever you face a choice, big or small, pause and ask, "Am I reacting automatically or am I choosing intentionally?" You'll be amazed at how even the smallest decisions feel different when you step into the driver's seat of your mind. Because the truth is, smart thinking doesn't begin with advanced strategies or complex systems. It begins with one simple but powerful choice, the decision to take control of your own thoughts. And once you master that shift, the rest of this journey will only take you higher. Chapter 2. Mental Clarity. Cutting through the noise of a busy world. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to think clearly in today's world? You sit down to focus, and within minutes, your phone buzzes, an email pops up, and your mind is already somewhere else. By the end of the day, you're exhausted, yet you feel like you haven't really accomplished anything. That's not just you. That's the reality of modern life. We live in a world designed to distract us. Notifications, social media, endless information, all of it competes for our attention. And when our mind is scattered, our thinking becomes cloudy. But here's the truth: clarity is power. The ability to think clearly is one of the greatest advantages you can give yourself. And like any skill, it can be trained. Why clarity matters. Think about water for a moment. If you look into a muddy pond, you can't see what's beneath the surface. But if the water is clear, you can see every detail at the bottom. Your mind works the same way. If it's filled with clutter, worries, distractions, and noise, you can't see the right decisions clearly. But when your mind is calm and focused, the answers rise to the surface. This is why clarity matters. Without it, we confuse busyness with productivity. We mistake activity for progress. We chase everything, but accomplish little. Smart thinkers know the secret: clarity first, action second. Because when your mind is clear, your actions are sharp, intentional, and effective. The science of attention. Psychologists often compare attention to a spotlight. Wherever you shine it, that's what you experience. But here's the catch: the spotlight is small. You can't focus on everything at once. This is called the attention bottleneck. Your brain can only process so much information at one time. And when you try to overload it, by multitasking, jumping between apps, or constantly checking notifications, your spotlight keeps shifting. You never give one thing the full light of your mind. That's why multitasking is actually a myth. Studies show that people who multitask aren't faster, they're slower. Their brains waste energy switching back and forth. Clarity, then, begins with protecting your attention. A real-life story. Let me share an example. Bill Gates, one of the world's most successful thinkers, has a practice he calls Think Week. Twice a year, he disappears into a cabin with nothing but books, notes, and ideas. No meetings, no distractions, just time for deep focus. During one of these weeks, he read a paper about the potential of the Internet. That clarity led to Microsoft shifting its entire strategy and becoming a global leader. Now, you may not be able to take a week off in a cabin, but the principle is the same. When you create space for clarity, breakthroughs happen. Clearing the mental clutter. So, how do you cut through the noise of daily life and create mental clarity? Here are some powerful strategies. Declutter your environment. Your surroundings affect your mind. A messy desk creates a messy head. Take 5 minutes each day to clear your space. It's a signal to your brain that it's time to focus. Single task with intensity. Instead of juggling 5 things poorly, do one thing with full attention. Set a timer for 25 to 50 minutes. Focus on one task, then take a short break. This is called the Pomodoro technique, and it trains your brain for deep focus. Silence the noise. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Put your phone in another room while you work. Remember, every ping costs you focus. Daily mental reset. At the end of each day, take 5 minutes to review. What did I do well today? What will I focus on tomorrow? This clears your mind for rest and prepares it for clarity the next morning. Practice mental minimalism. Ask yourself, what truly matters today? Instead of chasing 10 goals, focus on the 2 or 3 that matter most. Simplicity creates clarity. The role of mindfulness. Now, let's talk about something powerful: mindfulness. No, it doesn't mean sitting cross-legged for hours chanting OM. It simply means training your brain to notice when it's drifting and gently bringing it back. Even 2 minutes of mindful breathing can sharpen your clarity. Here's a simple practice. Close your eyes. Focus on your breath. Every time your mind wanders, and it will, just notice it and bring it back. This tiny exercise strengthens your attention like lifting weights strengthens your muscles. Over time, you'll find it easier to stay clear and focused, even in a noisy world. The energy-clarity connection. Clarity also has a secret ingredient: energy. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to think clearly when you're tired or hungry? That's because your brain consumes 20% of your body's energy. If your energy is low, your clarity suffers. So if you want a sharper mind, take care of your body. Sleep enough. Move your body daily. Eat clean, energizing foods. Clarity isn't just about the mind, it's about the whole system working together. The payoff of mental clarity. When you cut through the noise, something magical happens. Problems that once seemed overwhelming now feel solvable. Decisions that felt confusing become obvious. Stress that felt heavy becomes lighter, because you're no longer juggling 100 things, you're focusing on what matters. Clarity gives you an edge. It makes you calmer, more confident, and more effective. And in a distracted world, clarity is not just an advantage, it's a superpower. A challenge for you. So here's your challenge for the next week. Pick one clarity ritual and practice it daily. It could be decluttering your desk, turning off phone notifications, or spending 2 minutes in mindfulness. Do it consistently, and you'll notice something powerful. Your mind starts to feel lighter, sharper, and more in control. Because the truth is, smart thinking doesn't happen in a fog. It happens in clarity. And once you learn to clear the noise, you'll start to hear the wisdom of your own mind. Chapter 3: Emotional Intelligence. Thinking Beyond Logic. If I asked you to name the smartest person you know, who comes to mind? Maybe it's someone who can solve equations in their head, or someone who knows a little bit about everything. But let me ask you this. Does being smart always mean making the best choices? We've all met people who are brilliant on paper, great grades, high IQ, but when it comes to relationships, leadership, or handling stress, they fall apart. Why? Because being smart isn't just about thinking logically. It's about thinking emotionally. This is where emotional intelligence, or EQ, comes in. And let me tell you, in today's world, EQ is often more valuable than IQ. What is emotional intelligence? Simply put, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand and manage emotions, both your own and other people's. It's about recognizing how you feel in the moment, why you feel that way, and what impact those feelings have on your decisions. It's also about noticing how others feel, empathizing with them, and responding in a way that strengthens connection rather than weakens it. Psychologists usually break EQ into 4 parts. Self-awareness, recognizing your emotions as they happen. Self-management, controlling your impulses and responding thoughtfully. Social awareness, understanding the emotions of others. Relationship management, using emotional awareness to build trust, resolve conflict, and influence positively. Now here's the important part. Smart thinkers don't ignore emotions, they work with them. Because emotions aren't the enemy of logic. They're the energy that powers logic. Why emotions matter in thinking. Imagine driving a car. Logic is the steering wheel, it gives you direction. Emotion is the fuel, it gives you movement. Without fuel, you don't move. Without direction, you crash. You need both. This is why some of the best decisions in life can't be made with numbers alone. Think about choosing a partner, deciding to start a business, or moving to a new city. Yes, you look at the facts. But at the end of the day, you also listen to your gut, your feelings, your sense of meaning. The smartest thinkers understand that emotions are data. They're signals telling you what matters, what feels right, what feels wrong. Ignoring them doesn't make you stronger, it makes you blind. Real-life example. Let's take an example from history. Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest leaders of all time, was not only intelligent, he was emotionally intelligent. During the Civil War, when his cabinet was divided and tensions were high, Lincoln didn't just use logic to persuade. He used empathy. He listened deeply. He acknowledged the emotions in the room. And because he understood people as well as ideas, he was able to unite them toward a common goal. That's emotional intelligence in action, using both the head and the heart to think smarter. Common mistakes people make. Here's where many people go wrong. Some try to suppress their emotions, pretending they don't matter. But suppressed emotions don't disappear. They leak out as stress, anger, or poor decisions. Others swing to the opposite extreme, letting emotions control every choice. They act out of impulse, say things they regret, and burn bridges. Both approaches are dangerous. The sweet spot is emotional balance, honoring your feelings but not being ruled by them. How to strengthen your emotional intelligence. Now, let's talk about how you can build this skill. Practice naming your emotions. Most people use vague words like, "I feel bad," or "I'm fine." Instead, get specific. Are you anxious, frustrated, disappointed, or excited? Naming your emotions increases self-awareness, which is the first step to managing them. Pause before you react. Emotional intelligence shines in that tiny gap between feeling and responding. When someone upsets you, count to 3 before speaking. That pause gives logic time to join the conversation. Ask, "What's the story here?" Every emotion comes with a story. If you're angry, ask, "What story am I telling myself? Is it true?" Often, our emotions are based on assumptions, not facts. Challenging the story helps you respond wisely. Develop empathy muscles. Next time someone talks to you, don't just listen to their words. Pay attention to their tone, body language, and emotions underneath. Ask yourself, what are they really feeling? This builds social awareness. Turn emotion into energy. Instead of fighting emotions, channel them. Nervous before a presentation? Reframe it as excitement. Angry about a setback? Use that energy to fuel focused action. The power of emotional regulation. One of the strongest aspects of emotional intelligence is regulation, the ability to calm yourself under pressure. Think of firefighters. When everyone else panics, they stay calm, focused, and clear. That's not because they don't feel fear. It's because they've trained themselves to manage fear. You can do the same. Simple practices like deep breathing, stepping away for a moment, or reframing the situation can transform how you respond. Over time, you'll notice yourself becoming less reactive, more centered, and more influential. Emotional intelligence in relationships. Here's where EQ really shines. In relationships. Whether at work or at home, your success depends less on how smart you are and more on how well you connect with people. And connection comes from emotional intelligence. When you're aware of your own emotions, you don't project them onto others. When you're aware of others' emotions, you can respond with empathy instead of defensiveness. This doesn't just improve conversations, it builds trust, respect, and influence. And here's the secret. People may forget your words, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Smart thinkers use this truth to leave a lasting impact. The payoff of emotional intelligence. So what happens when you strengthen your EQ? You make better decisions because you're not blinded by impulse. You handle stress with calmness instead of panic. You communicate more clearly because you understand both the message and the emotion. You build stronger relationships based on empathy and trust. In short, emotional intelligence gives your thinking depth, warmth, and power. A challenge for you. So here's your challenge for the coming days. The next time you feel a strong emotion, anger, fear, excitement, pause and ask yourself 3 questions. What am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling it? What's the smartest way to respond? Do this consistently, and you'll notice something amazing. Your emotions stop controlling you and start guiding you. Because the truth is, the smartest thinkers aren't the ones who ignore emotions. They're the ones who master them. And when you learn to combine logic with emotional intelligence, you unlock a level of clarity, influence, and wisdom that pure IQ could never give you. Chapter 4. Cognitive Biases. Outsmarting Your Brain's Hidden Traps. Have you ever been absolutely sure you were right, only to later realize you were completely wrong? It happens to all of us. And it's not because we're careless or unintelligent. It's because our brains are wired with shortcuts, mental habits that help us make decisions quickly, but often lead us straight into mistakes. These shortcuts are called cognitive biases. Now, here's the thing. Biases are not bad in themselves. They're part of how the human brain evolved to survive. But if you don't recognize them, they control you. They cloud your judgment, distort your thinking, and keep you from making smart choices. In this chapter, we're going to uncover some of the most common biases that trap us, and more importantly, I'll show you how to outsmart them. Why our brains love shortcuts. Think about your brain like a computer. Every second, it receives millions of bits of information from the world around you. If it had to process everything logically, you'd never get out of bed in the morning. So instead, the brain uses shortcuts to save energy. These shortcuts are fast and automatic, but they're also flawed. They can lead you to jump to conclusions, miss obvious facts, or make irrational choices without even realizing it. Smart thinkers know this truth. The enemy of clear thinking is not lack of intelligence, it's invisible bias. The most common biases. Let's look at a few of the biggest culprits that affect nearly every decision you make. 1. Confirmation bias, seeing what you want to see. Imagine this, you believe a certain diet is the best for losing weight. So what do? You Google success stories, watch videos of people praising it, and join groups that reinforce your belief. You ignore or dismiss evidence that says otherwise. That's confirmation bias, the tendency to search for and favor information that confirms what we already believe. Smart thinkers fight this by asking, what evidence would prove me wrong? They actively seek out the opposite perspective, because that's where the real growth is. 2. Anchoring bias, stuck on the first number. Picture this. You walk into a store and see a jacket priced at $500. You think, wow, that's expensive. Then you see another jacket for $250. Suddenly, it feels like a bargain, even though $250 is still a lot of money. That's anchoring bias. Your brain latches onto the first number or piece of information it sees and uses it as a reference point, even if it's irrelevant. The solution. Always ask yourself, am I judging this on its real value or just on the first number I saw? 3. Availability bias. The loudest story wins. Have you ever felt afraid to fly after hearing about a plane crash on the news? Statistically, flying is far safer than driving, but because the crash was dramatic and recent, it feels more real in your mind. That's availability bias, our tendency to overestimate the likelihood of events that are vivid, recent, or memorable. Smart thinkers remind themselves, just because I hear about it more doesn't mean it happens more. 4. Negativity bias. The brain's tilt toward fear. You could receive 10 compliments in a day, but what do you remember at night? The one criticism. That's negativity bias. Our brains are wired to notice threats more than positives, a survival instinct from ancient times. To beat this, train yourself to intentionally focus on the positives. For every criticism, recall 3 compliments. For every setback, note one thing that went right. This rewires your brain for balanced thinking. 5. The bandwagon effect. Everyone can't be wrong. Can they? Remember being a teenager and wanting the shoes, music, or phone everyone else had, just because they had it? That's the bandwagon effect, our tendency to adopt beliefs or behaviors simply because many others are doing it. But smart thinkers ask, if everyone is running one way, is that really the best direction? Or am I just afraid of standing alone? Outsmarting your brain. So, how do you protect yourself from these traps? Here are some practical strategies. Slow down important decisions. Bias thrives on speed. If the choice is big, career, money, relationships, pause. Sleep on it. Give your slower, logical brain time to catch up. Play devil's advocate. Challenge your own ideas. Ask, what would someone who disagrees with me say? Arguing against yourself helps you see blind spots. Keep a decision journal. Write down the reasons behind major decisions. Later, review them. Did the outcome match your reasoning? Over time, this helps you spot where bias led you astray. Seek diverse perspectives. Surround yourself with people who think differently. They'll catch what you miss and expand your view. Use data, not just stories. Stories are powerful, but they can mislead. Balance them with facts and numbers to keep your perspective grounded. A real-life story. Let's take a famous example. The Challenger space shuttle disaster in 1986. The night before the launch, several engineers warned that the cold weather could cause the shuttle's O-rings to fail. But decision-makers fell into confirmation bias. They focused on data that supported launching and dismissed warnings that suggested danger. The result? Tragedy. This story is a painful reminder that ignoring biases can cost more than money. It can cost lives. Clear, unbiased thinking isn't just a personal advantage. It's a responsibility. The payoff of outsmarting bias. When you learn to recognize and outsmart biases, something powerful happens. Your decisions become sharper, based on reality, not assumptions. You stop falling for emotional traps that waste time and money. You build credibility, because people see you as fair, balanced, and wise. Most importantly, you gain freedom. Freedom from the invisible strings that pull most people's thinking without them even knowing. A challenge for you. So here's your challenge for this week. Pick one major decision you're facing. Write down your reasons. Then, go through the list of biases we've talked about: confirmation, anchoring, availability, negativity, and bandwagon. Ask yourself honestly, am I falling into any of these traps? You'll be surprised at how often the answer is yes. But awareness is the first step to freedom. Because the truth is, the smartest thinkers aren't the ones who never make mistakes. They're the ones who know their brain's weaknesses and learn to rise above them. And when you do that, you stop being a prisoner of bias and start being a master of clarity. Chapter 5: The Power of Perspective. Seeing the bigger picture. Have you ever noticed how two people can look at the exact same situation and see something completely different? One sees a disaster. The other sees an opportunity. One sees an ending. The other sees a new beginning. The difference isn't in the situation itself, it's in perspective. Perspective is the lens through which we view the world. It shapes how we interpret events, how we feel about them, and ultimately, how we respond. And here's the truth. When you learn to shift perspective, you unlock one of the greatest tools of smart thinking. Why perspective matters. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain. From down below, all you see are rocks and obstacles. But climb to the top, and suddenly you see the entire landscape, where the rivers flow, where the valleys lead, where the paths connect. That's what perspective does for your mind. At ground level, problems look overwhelming. But when you rise above, you see the bigger picture. You realize options you didn't notice before. Smart thinkers know this secret. Perspective creates possibilities. The psychology of perspective. Psychologists call this skill cognitive reframing, the ability to shift how you interpret a situation. For example, if you fail at something, you can frame it as proof that you're not good enough, or you can reframe it as feedback, a lesson that brings you closer to success. The event is the same. The perspective changes everything. Neuroscience even shows that reframing changes the brain's chemistry. When you see a challenge as a threat, your body floods with stress hormones. But when you see it as an opportunity to grow, your brain releases dopamine and motivation rises. In other words, perspective doesn't just change your thinking, it changes your biology. A real-life story. Consider the story of Thomas Edison. After one of his laboratories burned down, destroying years of work, a reporter asked how he felt. Edison replied, "I am not too old to start again. I have just witnessed a wonderful sight. All my mistakes have been burned to the ground." Most people would have seen devastation. Edison saw freedom to start fresh. That perspective fueled his persistence and his eventual breakthroughs. Common perspective traps. Of course, shifting perspective isn't always easy. Most of us fall into common traps. Tunnel vision. We get so focused on one detail of a problem that we miss the bigger context. Victim mentality. We interpret challenges as unfair attacks instead of opportunities to build resilience. Catastrophizing. We exaggerate problems, seeing them as the end of the world instead of temporary setbacks. Short-term focus. We judge everything by today's discomfort instead of tomorrow's potential. These traps shrink our vision. Smart thinkers learn to break free by asking bigger, better questions. How to expand your perspective. So, how do you actually develop the power of perspective? Let's explore some strategies. Zoom out. Whenever you face a challenge, ask, will this matter in 5 years? Often, what feels huge in the moment will barely be a memory later. This simple question helps you see beyond the now. Change the angle. Imagine giving advice to a friend who's in your exact situation. What would you say? Stepping outside yourself often reveals wisdom you couldn't see from inside the problem. Seek multiple viewpoints. Don't just trust your own interpretation. Ask others how they see the situation. Different perspectives can reveal blind spots you missed. Reframe setbacks as lessons. Instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" This transforms obstacles into stepping stones. Practice gratitude. Gratitude shifts perspective by focusing on what's working, not just what's broken. Even in difficulty, noticing one thing you're grateful for can reframe the entire situation. Perspective in leadership. Great leaders master perspective because they need to see beyond the immediate. They can't afford to get stuck in panic or tunnel vision. Take Winston Churchill during World War II. When bombs were falling on London, he didn't just see destruction. He saw an opportunity to rally the spirit of the British people. His speeches reframed fear into courage. His perspective shaped not only his own thinking but the thinking of an entire nation. This is the power of perspective. It multiplies. When you hold a strong, clear perspective, others around you begin to adopt it too. Perspective in daily life. Now, let's bring this down to everyday situations. You lose a job. One perspective says, "This is the end of my career." Another says, "This is the push I needed to find something better." A friend criticizes you. One perspective says, "They don't respect me." Another says, "They care enough to be honest." You fail an exam, lose money, or face rejection. One perspective says, "I'm not good enough." Another says, "I just discovered one way that doesn't work. Time to try another." The event doesn't define you. Your perspective does. The bigger picture. Smart thinking always involves asking, "What's the bigger picture here?" Because here's the truth. Life is bigger than any single failure, bigger than any single mistake, bigger than any single moment of pain. When you zoom out and see the whole story, you realize that challenges are chapters, not the whole book. Perspective gives you resilience. It helps you rise above temporary storms because you know the sun is still there behind the clouds. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for the week. Take one situation that feels negative or stressful right now. Write it down. Then, write 3 alternative perspectives on the same event. What lesson could this situation be teaching me? How might this be preparing me for something greater? What would I see if I looked at this 5 years from now? When you do this, you'll notice your mind shift. Suddenly, the problem feels lighter. Options appear where before there was only frustration. The payoff of perspective. When you master the art of perspective, you stop being trapped by the immediate. You stop being crushed by setbacks. You become resilient, creative, and wise. You realize that smart thinking isn't just about solving problems. It's about seeing problems differently. And sometimes, the smartest move isn't to change the situation, but to change the way you see it. Because once you do, the entire world opens up. Chapter 6: Strategic Thinking. Turning ideas into smart action. Ideas are powerful. They inspire us, excite us, and open doors to possibility. But here's the truth. An idea without strategy is like a car without fuel. It goes nowhere. Think about it. How many times have you had a great idea, but it never made it past your notebook or your imagination? That's not because the idea was weak. It's because it lacked a strategy, a plan to transform thought into reality. Smart thinking doesn't stop at having insights. It goes further. It asks, how can I use this? How can I make this work? What's the smartest path forward? That's where strategic thinking comes in. What is strategic thinking? Strategic thinking is the ability to see beyond the present moment, to connect today's decisions with tomorrow's outcomes. It's not just reacting to problems, but proactively designing solutions. If perspective, from the last chapter, helps you see the bigger picture, strategy helps you move within that picture. It's the bridge between vision and execution. A good strategist is like a chess player. They don't just think about the next move, they think about 5 moves ahead. They anticipate, prepare, and position themselves for long-term success. The psychology behind strategic thinking. Psychologists describe strategic thinking as a form of executive function, the brain's ability to plan, prioritize, and regulate actions toward a goal. It activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that separates us from animals. Strategic thinkers ask different questions than most people. Instead of, what feels good right now? They ask, what moves me closer to my bigger goal? What do I want today? They ask, what will benefit me in the long run? This shift in mindset is powerful. It transforms decisions from impulsive reactions into intentional moves. Real-world example. Apple and strategy. Think about Apple. Steve Jobs didn't just think about creating a phone. He thought strategically about creating an entire ecosystem, a phone connected to apps, music, laptops, and services. That's why Apple became more than a company. It became a lifestyle. It wasn't just about an idea. It was about a strategy, how each product fit into a bigger vision. Common mistakes that kill strategy. Before we explore how to think strategically, let's look at where most people go wrong. Chasing too many ideas. Without focus, even great ideas scatter your energy. Strategy requires choosing. Short-term thinking. Many people prioritize comfort today over success tomorrow. True strategy plays the long game. Lack of execution. Some people make detailed plans but never act. Strategy is worthless without action. Rigid thinking. Others stick so tightly to one plan that they can't adapt when reality changes. Strategic thinkers adjust, pivot, and evolve. The pillars of strategic thinking. So, how do you turn ideas into smart action? Let's break it into 5 pillars of strategy. 1. Clarity of vision. You can't create a strategy if you don't know where you're going. Strategic thinkers define the destination first. Ask yourself, what do I really want? What does success look like in 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years? 2. Breaking big goals into small steps. A vision can feel overwhelming unless it's broken down. Strategic thinkers reverse engineer their goals. Big goal, milestones, daily actions. This way, even the biggest dream becomes manageable. 3. Anticipation. Good strategy means looking ahead, spotting potential obstacles, and preparing solutions before problems arise. Think like a chess player. If I make this move, what might happen next? 4. Leverage. Strategic thinkers don't try to do everything themselves. They ask, what resources, people, or tools can I use to multiply my impact? It's not just about working harder, it's about working smarter. 5. Flexibility. Even the best strategy will face surprises. Smart thinkers adapt, adjust, and pivot while keeping their ultimate goal in sight. Strategy in action. A personal example. Let's say you want to write a book. Without strategy, you just keep saying, I'll start one day. With strategy, you decide, I'll write 1 page every day for 6 months. You block out writing time, break the project into chapters, and set milestones for completion. You anticipate distractions and plan solutions, like turning off your phone while writing. That's strategic thinking, breaking down the big vision and making it doable. The role of patience. Here's something most people forget. Strategy requires patience. We live in a world obsessed with quick wins. But real strategy plays the long game. Whether it's building a career, starting a business, or mastering a skill, strategic thinkers know that results come from consistent effort over time. The bamboo tree is a great example. 4 years, it shows no visible growth. But underground, its roots are spreading. Then, in a matter of weeks, it shoots up rapidly. Strategy is like that. You may not see results immediately, but the foundation you build will determine the height you reach. Strategic thinking in relationships. Strategy isn't just for business, it's for life. Think about relationships. Without strategy, you react to every argument emotionally. With strategy, you step back, think long-term, and ask, how do I strengthen this relationship instead of winning this fight? That's smart thinking in action, using long-term perspective instead of short-term impulses. Practical exercises to build strategic thinking. Let me give you some exercises to sharpen your strategic mind. The 5 moves game. Take a goal you have and write down, what are the next 5 moves I need to make to achieve it? This forces you to think like a strategist, not just a dreamer. Scenario planning. For every decision, write 3 possible outcomes. Best case, worst case, most likely. This prepares your mind for flexibility. Reverse engineering. Look at someone successful in your field. Instead of just admiring them, ask, what steps did they take to get there? Work backward to design your own strategy. Weekly strategy review. Once a week, step back and review your progress. Are your daily actions aligned with your bigger vision? If not, adjust. The payoff of strategic thinking. When you master strategic thinking, you stop drifting through life. You stop reacting blindly. Instead, you live intentionally, moving step by step toward a bigger vision. Strategic thinkers build careers, relationships, and lives that others admire, not because they're lucky, but because they planned smartly, adapted wisely, and acted consistently. And here's the best part, strategy compounds. Every smart move builds on the last. Over time, your progress accelerates. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Final thought. Ideas may inspire you, but strategy empowers you. It takes the dream in your head and transforms it into action in your hands. So the next time a great idea comes to you, don't just say, that's interesting. Ask yourself, what's my strategy? What's my next move? Because in the art of thinking smart, ideas are the spark, but strategy is the fire that keeps them alive. Chapter 7. Creative Intelligence. Thinking outside the box without losing clarity. When you hear the word creativity, what comes to mind? Maybe an artist painting in a studio, a musician composing a song, or an inventor working late into the night on a new gadget. But here's the truth. Creativity isn't just for artists and inventors. It's for anyone who wants to solve problems, innovate in daily life, or simply think in fresh, original ways. Creativity is not about talent. It's about perspective, courage, and the ability to see connections others miss. And when we combine creativity with clarity, we unlock what I call creative intelligence. What is creative intelligence? Creative intelligence is the ability to generate new ideas and solutions without losing focus on what matters. It's about balancing imagination with logic. Without creativity, thinking can become rigid, predictable, and uninspired. Without clarity, creativity can become chaotic, scattered, and unrealistic. But together, they create a powerful synergy. You get bold ideas and practical execution. Think of it like flying a kite. Creativity is the kite soaring high into the sky, exploring possibilities. Clarity is the string that keeps it grounded, giving it direction and control. The psychology of creativity. Psychologists often describe creativity as divergent thinking, the ability to generate many possible solutions to a problem. Instead of asking, "What's the right answer?" creative thinkers ask, "What are all the possible answers?" At the same time, creative intelligence requires convergent thinking, narrowing those options down to the best, most practical ones. Smart thinkers know how to use both. Research also shows that creativity is linked to neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections. When you learn new skills, explore new environments, or expose yourself to diverse ideas, your brain literally rewires itself to think in new ways. Real-life example: Pixar's creative process. Consider Pixar, the studio behind films like Toy Story and Inside Out. Their success doesn't come from random bursts of inspiration. It comes from a deliberate process, generating wild ideas, then filtering them through clarity and structure. They call it plussing. Every idea can be built upon, improved, and refined until it works. This balance between free creativity and sharp clarity is why their stories resonate worldwide. The myths about creativity. Before we explore how to build creative intelligence, let's bust a few myths. You're either born creative or you're not. False. Creativity is a skill. Like a muscle, it grows stronger the more you use it. Creativity is about being original. Not always. Often, creativity is about combining existing ideas in new ways. Creativity means chaos. Not true. The best creative minds are disciplined. They know how to channel imagination into meaningful outcomes, unlocking creative intelligence. So, how do you think outside the box while keeping clarity? Let's explore some practical strategies. 1. Ask better questions. Creative thinkers don't settle for the obvious. Instead of asking, "What's the answer?" they ask, "What if?" How else? Why not? For example, instead of asking, "How can I work harder?" ask, "How can I make this easier or smarter?" 2. Change your environment. Your surroundings shape your thinking. If you always work in the same place, with the same people, in the same routine, your ideas will feel the same. Try working in a new space, exploring different cultures, or exposing yourself to new experiences. 3. Combine opposites. Many breakthroughs happen by combining unrelated ideas. Smartphones combined telephones with computers. Uber combined taxis with mobile apps. Ask yourself, what if I mix these two ideas together? 4. Use constraints. Strangely, limitations often fuel creativity. When you have limited resources, you're forced to think differently. Remember, necessity is the mother of invention. 5. Pause for incubation. Sometimes, the best ideas come not when you're forcing yourself to think, but when you step away. That's why people get ideas in the shower or on a walk. Your subconscious mind keeps working in the background, balancing creativity with clarity. Now, here's the key. Creativity without clarity can be dangerous. You may come up with hundreds of ideas, but if none of them are practical, you'll stay stuck in dreaming mode. To keep balance. First, diverge. Generate as many ideas as possible. Then, converge. Filter them by asking, does this align with my vision? Is it practical? Can I act on it? This way, you don't lose clarity while being creative. Story of creative intelligence. The Post-it Note. Here's a famous example. In the 1970s, Spencer Silver, a scientist at 3M, accidentally created a weak adhesive. By itself, it seemed useless. But years later, his colleague Art Fry reframed the idea. What if this weak glue could be used for temporary notes? That balance of creativity and clarity led to the invention of the Post-it Note, a product used by millions worldwide. The lesson? Smart thinkers don't throw away unusual ideas. They explore how to make them useful. Creativity in daily life. You don't have to be an inventor to practice creative intelligence. You can use it in everyday life. Cooking. Experimenting with new recipes from leftovers. Work. Finding a faster way to complete a task. Relationships. Coming up with fresh ways to express love or solve conflicts. Personal growth. Designing unique routines to stay motivated. Creativity is simply looking at the ordinary and asking, how can I make this better, easier, or more meaningful? Exercises to boost creative intelligence. The 30 circles test. Draw 30 circles on a page. In 3 minutes, turn as many circles as you can into different objects, a sun, a ball, a clock, etc. This trains your brain to generate ideas quickly. The what-if game. Pick a common object or problem and brainstorm wild alternatives. What if cars could fold into backpacks? What if schools had no classrooms? Creative constraints. Set a challenge with a limitation. For example, cook dinner using only 3 ingredients. Constraints force innovative solutions. Mind mapping. Take a central idea and branch out with related thoughts, no matter how crazy. Then, review and highlight the practical ones. Why creative intelligence matters. In a rapidly changing world, creativity isn't optional. It's survival. Industries evolve, problems grow complex, and opportunities appear where others see none. The people who thrive are not just logical, they're creatively intelligent. Think of Elon Musk. Whether you admire him or not, his success comes from reimagining industries, electric cars, rockets, satellites, even tunnels. He pushes creative ideas, but also grounds them with clarity, execution, and strategy. Final thought. Creative intelligence is the art of balancing imagination with wisdom. It's daring to think outside the box, while still remembering why the box exists. So the next time you face a challenge, don't ask, what's the obvious answer? Ask, what's another way to see this? What's a creative angle that still makes sense? Because when you master creative intelligence, you don't just think differently, you think smarter. And that's what turns ordinary ideas into extraordinary realities. Chapter 8. The Language of Thought. Communicating with Clarity and Impact. Have you ever listened to someone speak and thought, wow, they make everything sound so clear, so powerful, so easy to understand? And then you listen to someone else and think, what on earth are they even trying to say? The difference isn't just vocabulary. It's not just eloquence or fancy words. The difference is in the clarity of thought behind the words. Because here's the truth. We speak the way we think. If our thoughts are scattered, our words will be confusing. If our thoughts are sharp and structured, our words will be impactful. That's why mastering communication isn't just about learning to speak better. It's about learning to think better. The link between thought and language. The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein once said, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." What he meant is simple. The words we use both shape and reflect the way we understand reality. For example, if you think in vague terms, "This is bad," your language will be vague. If you think in clear terms, "This is inefficient because it wastes time," your language becomes precise and persuasive. The sharper your thinking, the sharper your language. And the sharper your language, the more influence you have on others. Why clarity matters. We live in a world drowning in noise, endless emails, social media posts, meetings, and messages. People don't have time for long-winded explanations. What they crave is clarity. Clarity builds trust. Confusion creates doubt. Think about great leaders: Martin Luther King Jr., Steve Jobs, Nelson Mandela. They didn't just have big ideas. They expressed them in clear, simple, powerful words that people could understand and remember. The psychology of powerful communication. Psychologists studying communication have discovered something fascinating. People remember stories and simple messages far more than complex ones. Why? Because our brains are wired for simplicity. Complex language overwhelms working memory. Clear language activates understanding and emotion. That's why smart thinkers strip away unnecessary jargon. They use simple, strong words. They don't try to impress, they try to connect. Common communication mistakes. Before we explore how to master the language of thought, let's highlight common mistakes. Overloading with information. Some people bury their audience under too many details, losing the core message. Vagueness. Saying things like, "We need to improve," without specifying what or how. Overcomplicating. Using jargon, long sentences, or abstract terms that confuse instead of clarify. Speaking without structure. Jumping from point to point without a logical flow. These mistakes don't mean you're unintelligent. They simply mean the thought process wasn't clear before speaking. The smart thinker's approach to communication. So, how do you communicate with clarity and impact? Here are some strategies. 1. Think before you speak. This sounds obvious, but many people start talking before they've fully formed their thought. Pause. Organize the idea in your head. Ask, what's the core message I want them to walk away with? 2. Use the rule of 3. Our brains love patterns, and 3 is the magic number. Presenting ideas in groups of 3 makes them memorable. Example, clear, concise, compelling. 3. Choose simple words. Albert Einstein once said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." Use everyday words, not jargon, to make complex ideas accessible. 4. Tell stories. Facts inform, but stories inspire. If you want to leave an impact, wrap your ideas in narratives that connect emotionally. 5. Structure your message. Think of communication as a journey. Start with the destination, your main point, then guide your listener step by step. Real-life example, Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone in 2007, he didn't start with technical jargon. He simply said, "Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone." In one sentence, he created clarity, curiosity, and impact. Later, he described it as an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. Simple, clear, memorable. That's the language of thought in action, translating complex innovation into words anyone could grasp. Communicating in daily life. This skill isn't just for leaders or entrepreneurs. It's for all of us. Think about. At work, presenting your ideas clearly can mean the difference between being ignored and being promoted. In relationships, expressing your feelings with clarity prevents misunderstandings and builds trust. With yourself, the way you talk to yourself matters. If your inner language is vague, "I'll try to be better," you won't improve. But if it's clear, I'll exercise for 20 minutes every day, you take real action. Exercises to master the language of thought. Let's make this practical. Here are some exercises. The one-sentence challenge. Take any idea and practice expressing it in one clear sentence. This forces you to distill your thought to its essence. Teach it to a child. Try explaining a complex topic to a child. If they can understand, you've mastered clarity. Record yourself. Speak about an idea for 2 minutes, then listen back. Did you ramble? Were your words clear? Self-awareness is the first step to growth. Simplify your vocabulary. Replace complicated words with simple ones. Instead of utilize, say use. Instead of facilitate, say help. Simplicity equals power. The deeper impact of clear communication. Clear communication doesn't just help others understand you, it changes how they perceive you. People see clear speakers as more confident, more intelligent, and more trustworthy. And there's another benefit. When you discipline yourself to think and speak clearly, you start to see life more clearly. Confusion fades. Confidence grows. Final thought. The language of thought is not about speaking more, it's about speaking better. It's about aligning your words with your vision so people not only hear you but feel you. So, the next time you open your mouth to speak, remember, think first. Be clear. Be concise. Be compelling. Because the smartest thinkers are not just the ones with great ideas, they're the ones who can communicate those ideas in a way that changes minds, hearts, and futures. Chapter 9. Influence and Connection. Smart Thinking in Relationships. If you think about it, every part of our lives comes down to one thing: relationships. From family to friendships, from co-workers to clients, from mentors to communities. Our success, happiness, and growth all depend on how well we connect with others. And here's the truth. The smartest thinkers are not the ones who stand alone, but the ones who know how to build bridges. Because no matter how brilliant your ideas are, if you can't connect with people, your impact will always be limited. So, in this chapter, let's explore the psychology of influence and connection, and how smart thinking can help you create stronger, deeper, and more meaningful relationships. The foundation of influence: trust. Influence doesn't start with words, strategies, or persuasion techniques. It starts with trust. Trust is the invisible currency of every relationship. When people trust you, they listen to you. When they don't, even your best arguments fall flat. Think of someone you deeply trust, maybe a parent, a close friend, or a mentor. When they speak, you don't just hear their words, you feel their sincerity. That's influence built on trust. And how do you build trust? By being consistent, authentic, and clear in your intentions. People may forget what you say, but they never forget how you make them feel. The psychology of connection. Psychologists often talk about the human need for belonging. It's hardwired into our brains. We don't just want to be understood, we need to be understood. Smart thinkers recognize this. They know influence isn't about overpowering someone's mind. It's about aligning with their needs, values, and emotions. Think of influence not as pushing someone, but as guiding them. Not manipulation, but mutual benefit. Emotional intelligence in relationships. Remember when we discussed emotional intelligence earlier? This is where it becomes a superpower. In relationships, emotional intelligence allows you to read emotions accurately. Notice when someone is frustrated, excited, or uncertain. Respond with empathy. Instead of reacting defensively, you show understanding. Manage your own emotions. Staying calm under pressure makes others trust you more. Imagine a heated argument with a coworker. A reactive thinker raises their voice, adds fuel to the fire, and damages the relationship. A smart thinker notices their emotions rising, pauses, listens, and responds with calm clarity. That changes everything. The power of listening. Here's a secret. One of the most powerful ways to influence others is not by speaking, but by listening. Most people listen to reply, not to understand. Smart thinkers listen deeply. They ask questions. They reflect back what they heard. They make the other person feel valued. And here's the paradox. When people feel heard, they're more open to hearing you. Influence without manipulation. There's a thin line between influence and manipulation. The difference lies in intention. Manipulation is self-serving. How can I get what I want? Influence is mutual. How can we both benefit and grow? Smart thinkers influence with integrity. They don't twist facts or play games. Instead, they focus on clarity, honesty, and shared vision. That's the kind of influence that lasts. Practical strategies for influence and connection. Let's get practical. Here are some smart thinking strategies you can start applying today. 1. Mirror and match. People naturally connect with those who feel familiar. Subtly mirroring someone's body language, tone, or pace of speech creates unconscious rapport. But do it naturally. Authenticity is key. 2. Appeal to values. Instead of just presenting logic, connect your message to what matters most to the other person. If they value security, show how your idea provides stability. If they value growth, highlight the opportunities. 3. Tell stories. Stories bypass resistance and speak to the heart. Share real examples, personal experiences, or metaphors to bring your point to life. 4. Give before you ask. Generosity creates goodwill. Offer value, advice, help, encouragement, before expecting anything in return. People trust those who give first. 5. Be consistent. Influence is not built in one conversation. It's built through consistent actions, reliability, and follow-through. Real-life example. Nelson Mandela. When Nelson Mandela emerged after 27 years in prison, he didn't seek revenge. Instead, he sought reconciliation. He invited his former enemies to work with him. Why? Because he knew lasting influence wasn't about force, it was about connection. By appealing to unity and forgiveness, he transformed a nation. That's smart thinking in relationships, choosing connection over division, vision over ego. Influence in everyday life. This isn't just for world leaders, it's for all of us. At work, influence can help you gain support for your ideas, lead teams effectively, and resolve conflicts. In family, connection helps build harmony, reduce misunderstandings, and deepen bonds. In friendships, smart influence ensures relationships are uplifting and not one-sided. In society, the ability to connect across differences can create bridges where others see walls. The role of authenticity. Here's the golden rule. People can sense fakeness. You can't fake connection. You can't pretend to care. Real influence comes when you're authentic, when your words align with your values, and when you genuinely want to see others succeed. Ironically, the best way to influence others is not to try to influence at all, but to serve, support, and connect. Influence then becomes a natural byproduct. Exercises to build influence and connection. The empathy exercise. Next time someone shares a problem, resist the urge to give advice immediately. Instead, reflect back what they said. It sounds like you're feeling. This builds trust instantly. The listening challenge. Spend one conversation speaking less than the other person. Focus entirely on asking good questions and listening deeply. The value alignment practice. When persuading someone, first identify their core value. Then reframe your message around that value. Final thought. Influence is not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the voice people trust, respect, and feel connected to. And connection is not about having hundreds of relationships. It's about cultivating a few meaningful ones built on authenticity, empathy, and clarity. So, as you move forward, remember this. Influence begins with trust. Connection begins with listening. Smart thinking in relationships means seeking not just to win, but to understand, align, and grow together. Because at the end of the day, success isn't measured by what you achieve alone, but by how many lives you've touched along the way. Chapter 10. The Discipline of Reflection, Turning Thought into Lasting Wisdom. Let me ask you a simple but powerful question. How many lessons in your life have you had to learn more than once? Maybe it was making the same financial mistake. Maybe it was repeating the same relationship pattern. Or maybe it was realizing, again, that neglecting your health comes at a cost. Why do we repeat mistakes even when we already know better? Because knowing is not the same as learning. And this is where the discipline of reflection comes in. Reflection is the process of turning experience into wisdom. It's the pause button that transforms life from being a blur of events into a meaningful journey of growth. Without reflection, experiences fade into memory. With reflection, they become stepping stones to mastery. Why reflection matters. The world today moves fast. We're constantly rushing, from one meeting to the next, from one message to the next, from one goal to the next. But in the rush, we rarely stop to ask, what did I learn? What can I do better next time? Reflection slows the chaos. It allows you to step back, zoom out, and see the bigger picture. It's like climbing a mountain. If you only look at the rocks beneath your feet, you miss the breathtaking view. Reflection forces you to look up, to see how far you've come, and where you need to go next. The psychology of reflection. Psychologists call this metacognition, thinking about your thinking. When you reflect, you're not just reacting to life. You're analyzing your decisions, your beliefs, your patterns. You're asking, why did I think that way? What worked? What didn't? How can I improve? Reflection creates self-awareness, and self-awareness is the foundation of all smart thinking. Because you can't change what you don't see. Wisdom versus knowledge. Let's clear up an important distinction. Knowledge is information. Wisdom is applying that information to life. Knowledge says, exercise is good for health. Wisdom says, I'm scheduling 30 minutes of exercise every morning. Knowledge says, spending more than you earn leads to debt. Wisdom says, I'm building a budget and sticking to it. Knowledge can be learned in a moment. Wisdom is built over time, through reflection, practice, and discipline. The barriers to reflection. If reflection is so powerful, why don't more people do it? Busyness. People feel they don't have time to stop and think. Ironically, this lack of reflection causes more mistakes and wastes even more time. Discomfort. Reflection often forces us to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves. It's easier to keep moving than to confront them. Ego. Some people assume they already know everything. But wisdom begins with humility, the realization that we are always students of life. Smart thinkers overcome these barriers by making reflection a habit, not an afterthought. Practical ways to practice reflection. Let's get practical. Here are methods you can start using today. 1. The daily debrief. At the end of each day, ask yourself 3 simple questions. What went well? What didn't go well? What can I do better tomorrow? This takes less than 5 minutes, but over time it compounds into massive growth. 2. Journaling. Writing your thoughts forces clarity. A journal becomes a mirror that shows patterns you might miss in the moment. Even a few lines a day can reveal incredible insights. 3. Weekly review. Once a week, set aside time to review your goals, actions, and results. This zooms out from the daily details and helps you see trends over time. 4. Asking better questions. Reflection is guided by questions. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" The quality of your questions shapes the quality of your insights. 5. Seek feedback. Sometimes we're blind to our own flaws. Asking trusted mentors, friends, or colleagues for feedback adds an external perspective to your reflection. The compounding power of reflection. Think of reflection like interest in a bank account. Each insight you gain is like a deposit. Alone, it might seem small. But over months and years, it compounds into wisdom, maturity, and foresight. Without reflection, you might live the same year of experience 10 times. With reflection, you live 10 years of growth. Real-life example: Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, one of the world's most successful investors, spends about 80% of his day reading and thinking. He once said, "I insist on a lot of time being spent, almost every day, to just sit and think." Most people would call that unproductive. But Buffett knows that reflection sharpens judgment, prevents costly mistakes, and transforms information into billion-dollar wisdom. Reflection in relationships. Reflection doesn't just help you personally, it helps in relationships too. When a conflict arises, instead of blaming the other person, reflection asks, "What role did I play? What could I have done differently?" This shift turns arguments into growth opportunities and strengthens trust. Exercises to cultivate reflection. The 5-minute rule. Spend the last 5 minutes of your day reflecting. Don't scroll your phone. Just think or write. The lesson of the week. Practice. Each week, write down one key lesson you've learned. By the end of the year, you'll have 52 lessons shaping your growth. Silent walks. Take a walk without music, podcasts, or distractions. Let your mind wander and process. You'll be amazed at the clarity that emerges. Final thought. Reflection is not about living in the past. It's about learning from it to create a wiser future. When you discipline yourself to reflect, every mistake becomes a teacher. Every success becomes a model. Every day becomes a chance to grow smarter, clearer, and stronger. So here's the challenge. Don't just go through life. Grow through life. Pause. Reflect. Learn. Adjust. Because in the end, the smartest thinkers are not the ones who know the most, but the ones who consistently turn their experiences into lasting wisdom. Conclusion: the art of thinking smart. And here we are, my friend, the final stretch of our journey together. Over the past 10 chapters, we've traveled deep into the art and psychology of smart thinking. We began with the foundations of clarity, moved through the power of emotional intelligence, explored the traps of cognitive biases, expanded our view through perspective and strategy, unleashed creativity, sharpened our communication, mastered influence and connection, and finally, we arrived at the discipline of reflection, where thought transforms into lasting wisdom. Take a moment to appreciate how far you've come. This hasn't just been a book about thinking smarter. It's been a journey into living smarter. The golden thread. If there's one golden thread running through all of this, it's this. Smart thinking is not about being the most intelligent person in the room. It's about being the clearest, the most intentional, and the most reflective. It's about choosing to pause when others rush. It's about seeking understanding when others assume. It's about connecting when others compete. And above all, it's about turning knowledge into wisdom, and wisdom into action. What this means for you. Now, the real question is, what will you do with this? Because ideas are only as powerful as the action you take from them. You don't need to change your life overnight. Start small. Take 5 minutes today to reflect. Reframe one conversation with clarity. Notice one bias that might be clouding your judgment. Listen more deeply to one person who matters to you. Each of these small steps adds up. Day by day, you'll notice your thinking sharpening, your communication improving, your relationships deepening. And slowly, you'll realize you are no longer just reacting to life. You are shaping it. The bigger picture. The truth is, the world doesn't just need more knowledge. It doesn't just need more voices shouting for attention. What the world desperately needs are people who think clearly, communicate powerfully, and act with wisdom. People who can cut through noise, solve problems, build bridges, and inspire hope. And that person can be you. My final call to you. So as we close this book, I want to leave you with one final thought. Don't let this be just another audiobook you listen to. Let it be a turning point. Carry these principles with you. Live them. Practice them. Fail at them, learn from them, and return to them again. Because the art of thinking smart isn't a destination, it's a lifelong practice. Every day is another chance to get clearer, wiser, and more impactful. Closing message. So, here's my challenge to you. Starting today, commit to being a smart thinker. Not just for your own success, but for the people you lead, the relationships you nurture, and the world you're part of. Remember, smart thinking creates smart living. And smart living creates a better world. The future belongs to those who think with clarity, act with wisdom, and lead with authenticity. And that future, my friend, belongs to you. Headphone, thank you for joining me on this journey through the art of thinking smart.